How did a relatively simple picture of an eye inside a triangle become a staging ground for skeptics of conspiracies? Let us look into this enigmatic symbol's history. Cryptic clues and subtle visual cues are essential to conspiracy theories. One such emblem is the Eye of Providence, which is an eye placed within a triangle. It is tied to Freemasonry and the mythical Illuminati, a group of elite individuals who are said to be trying to dominate world affairs. Since it is so prominently displayed in plain view, the Eye of Providence attracts conspiracy theorists because it can be seen on numerous churches and Masonic structures across the world, as well as on the back of the US dollar and the Great Seal of the United States. In all honesty, it's a strange and eerie choice for a US state insignia. The mysterious eye effectively evokes the impression of a nosy, tyrannical big brother. We have symbols that point to an old and occult group when combined with the pyramid underneath it. What are the Eye of Providence's origins, why is it so intriguing to us, and why is it commonly linked to Freemasonry and the Illuminati? The Eye of Providence was originally a Christian emblem, and the Renaissance era's religious artwork has some of the first examples of its representation of God. Pontormo's Dinner at Emmaus from 1525 is an early illustration, however the emblem was added later, maybe in the 1600s. The Iconologia, a collection of symbols that was originally published in 1593, served as another important source for the icon. Subsequent printings included the Eye of Providence as a quality of the personification of divine providence, or the goodness of God. The emblem was created as a symbol of God's loving concern toward humanity, as its name and early use would imply. Based on the past, it is unknown who created it, but whomever did so created it using a collection of earlier religious symbols. The Christian Trinity of Father, Son, and Holy Spirit has long been represented by the triangle. In earlier ages, God was occasionally sometimes seen with a triangular halo. The light beams that are frequently depicted coming from the symbol are also a traditional representation of God's brilliance in Christian imagery. So, where did that sinister ghostly eye come from? God has previously been shown in many mysterious ways, but never as an eye, for instance by a single hand appearing from a cloud. It's plausible to suggest that an isolated representation of an eye has its own unique psychological influence, conveying power and, to the viewer, suggesting a sentient attentiveness. Even in nature, you may observe this phenomenon since certain creatures have developed eye spots to deter predators on their skin. The False Mirror by René Magritte, created in 1929, sees as much as it itself is seen, as the surrealist photographer Man Ray put it best when he reflected. The eye as a symbol, however, has a richer history to examine, one that dates back to the oldest known faiths. The Sumerians portrayed the sanctity of some sculptures during the 3rd millennium BCE by unnaturally expanding their eyes to heighten the impression of obedient watchfulness. They even performed rituals in which statues were brought to life by having their eyes opened by the creators. Yet, the detached eye theme was first used by the ancient Egyptians, as evidenced by the pair of painted eyes on a coffin that permitted the deceased to see in the afterlife. The Eye of Horus is one of the most well-known Egyptian emblems. The black eyebrow and cheek characteristics of the falcon are included in this pattern, which is essentially a combination of a human and falcon eye. In conflict with his uncle Set, the deity Horus, commonly portrayed as a falcon or with a falcon's head, supposedly had his eyes amputated in ancient Egyptian mythology. Afterwards, he restored his sight with the aid of Thoth. As a result, the Eye of Horus served as a protective emblem and was frequently worn as an amulet, a sculpture tiny enough to fit in a person's pocket. Throughout the Renaissance, European imagery was influenced by these and other Egyptian hieroglyphs depicting solitary human eyes. Because they didn't completely comprehend Egyptian lettering at the time, attempts at translation were frequently inaccurate. However, researchers and artists at that time were fascinated by it. One of the most well-known was translated as God in a 1499 romance called The Dream of Polyphilo, which included an Egyptian sign with a single eye. Poor translation resulted from a basic misunderstanding of the original purpose of hieroglyphics. In the 1400s and 1500s, they were thought to have a far greater mystical meaning. Today we know that they are a written language composed mostly of phonetic symbols. It was believed that the animals, birds, and abstract shapes used in hieroglyphic writing were meant to be purposefully ambiguous, rather than serving as components of a language system. They individually developed meaning as the viewer's inspiration. It was assumed that they were open-ended riddles with numerous meanings. This idea had a significant impact on European art. When symbol dictionaries like Andrea Alciati's 1531 Emblemata and subsequently Cesare Ripa's Iconologia were published, the focus was on cryptic, sometimes extremely complex visual symbols that required the spectator to actively participate in both their interpretation and decipherment. A theme like the Eye of Providence was hence purposefully cryptic in appearance. It's a symbol that seems almost designed to be reinterpreted, possibly even incorrectly. And it was in the late 18th century that this fully materialized. This era's three most significant instances show how the symbolism of the Eye of Providence is becoming more varied. The Declaration of the Rights of Man and of the Citizen, written by Jean-Jacques-François Le Barbier in 1789 in post-revolutionary France, displayed the text of the bold new proclamation with the Eye of Providence at the top. In this instance, it has evolved into a tool of paternalistic reason guarding the newly egalitarian country. In 1794, Jeremy Bentham of Britain hired the architect Wiley Reveley to create a logo for his panopticon, a radical new jail that would allow for constant cell observation. The final illustration featured the Eye of Providence, which is now a representation of the unwavering gaze of judicial righteousness, with the phrases mercy, justice, and vigilance in close proximity. The United States of America's Great Seal was presented a few years earlier, in 1782. Although Charles Thomson, Secretary of the Continental Congress, together with a young lawyer and artist called William Barton, came up with the pyramid and Eye of Providence, among the other aspects of the seal, Thomas Jefferson, Benjamin Franklin, and John Adams had all made design suggestions. The incomplete pyramid was meant to stand for strength and longevity, with 13 tiers signifying the 13 founding states of the United States. The Eye of Providence was a traditional emblem for God's compassionate surveillance of this young nation, much like the other two instances from the same era in Britain and France. None of the instances engaged Freemasons in the selection of the emblem. How was the Illuminati influenced by the Eye of Providence? The specifics of the first group's early years are mostly unknown. It was formed in Bavaria around 1776 and disbanded in 1787. Also, we are unsure of the significance of visual signals to the original sequence, which is unfortunate. It is true that the concepts of Freemasonry, which had irregularly utilized the Eye of Providence as a symbol of the supreme architect, God, influenced the Illuminati. At the time, many other faiths had done the same. Yet it wasn't until Bentham, Le Barbier, Thomson, and Barton appropriated the Eye of Providence emblem for their extremely popular goals that the Masons began to widely employ it. Sadly for conspiracy enthusiasts, the Eye of Providence on the $1 note reveals considerably more about late 18th century aesthetics than it does about the power of hidden rulers. Madonna, Jay-Z, and Kanye West have all been accused of adopting Illuminati symbolism, especially the Eye of Providence, in our contemporary era. Nonetheless, each musician has a keen eye for the iconic and potentially for provocation, in both imagery and tune rather than any connection to the Illuminati. The Eye of Providence has been used repeatedly, and this holds true for Madonna, Jay-Z, Bentham, Le Barbier, Thomson, Barton, the Freemasons, Renaissance artists, and pretty much any other person or group. This is not evidence of a planned conspiracy, but rather a testament to the Eye of Providence's timeless genius as a logo design.
As the world turned